Today was 42 degrees, so in Imperial that's probably about 112 degrees. We've got a swimming pool on the property and all the kids are in the pool at the moment. And the sprinkler's on trying to keep the lawn alive. It's just about died. This area at the front here is the front, in italics, lawn. We've just bought a pump and we're going to put reticulation in here and make this a green area again. This pan shot here is from the front of the property or the front of the big house. And what I'm doing is this is the house. The homestead that was built in 1950, solid granite, and the walls are about 2 foot thick. And the swimming pool is down to the left hand side, behind the gate here, the fence. I'm standing here in the middle of the road. Obviously there's not much traffic around. Right out the front of the house. And as I pan around through the trees, is the front of the house. This is looking away from the house, out towards the first paddock. The tank in the background is a 20,000 gallon tank. Between it and a dam supply all the ordinary water for the house. Drinking water is supplied by rainwater. This is the front porch, or front veranda, where it's nice and cool, and being 110 degrees, it's even too hot for the blowflies to stay outside. So they come and swarm in here, which means you can't even use the door. This is the backyard. Down towards the chicken or chook pens, which have got no chickens at the moment. And we're struggling with sprinklers on most of the time to try and keep the lawns at least a reasonably green. So this is from the porch or veranda again. Down towards the outside bathroom. A tank there. We're at a farm now belonging to Jerry Taylor, a bachelor. And we've just come to get some more sheep. This is the second load for the day. First load we came down here at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the truck, just waiting for the second truck to come. That's his shearing shed and sheep yards combined. That's our truck. The house up here looks like it's a derelict old house. It's hard to tell with some of these farms around here. You think they're derelict, but they actually still live in them. This is the machinery shed. Yep, we're now inside the shearing shed. And this is a 5-stand shearing shed. And this is the modern idea of a drop floor. It's a very good condition one, brand new by the look of it, or almost brand new. The shearers would enjoy this, also the rouseabouts. Galvanised iron roof. Trim fans to keep the shearers and the sheep cool. And the wool classer maybe. Yes, this is part of the wool floor. There's some bales on the ground there. There's some bales standing up and full of wool. And that steel contraption is the wool press. And along the side here are the wool bins, where the wool's put into different grades of quality.
The shed's 4 years old. It's 72 feet long by 50 wide.
And you must have enough sheep to warrant having a 5-stand shed?
Yeah, just over 6,000
sheep. And what area do you have?
1,600 acres. Must be hills.
And you do any cropping at all?
Only for lambs.
Okay, anything else you'd like to tell us about it?
Well, I suppose the shed itself is 22 or 23 gram. Whole up of the shed is 80 odd grand.
So it's $80,000 just tied up just in the shearing shed?
The whole lot, yeah. Not that will include any outside.
Right. Okay.
Stuff being salvaged out of the old one, and the wool bins, floorboarding, and out the second-hand timber which is stuffed underneath. As you can see, the shed is from ground level to about 10 foot drop outside.
Right. This is the wool table. After the sheep are shorn, the rouseabouts or the shed hands will pick up a fleece of wool and throw it on this table, and the table is rotated, and all the skirtings or the daggy pieces of wool are taken off, and then the classer is rolled up and put into its class for grading. I'm now standing on the shearing board, and what this is the shearing, or the overhead gear, and this is the tube that runs the handpiece, which is for shearing the sheep. There's none on this one at the moment, and so by rotating you can see the other stands. And as I said, this is a 5-stand shed. There's approximately 270, 280 head of sheep in here, and we're just still waiting for the truck to come. It's starting to get warm now. Actually, I can just hear the truck coming now. Oh, what fun. Okay. It's a rather modern invention. These gates are dual purpose. They lift up and turn around, and they also swing. You can see Jerry just swinging the gate now. It's an excellent idea. Okay, this is the semi-trailer just coming in. And he's coming in to get a full load of sheep. Now, as I said, there's about 270, 280 head. That's three decks. And what he's doing now is just backing up to the loading ramp. Using the distance here. Well, here we are in Perth, and we're staying at a little apartment here in the centre of Perth. It's probably only half a mile from the centre of Perth itself. And we're staying in one of the cheap apartments, and it's for sale. And they're only the cheap apartments are $300,000, and the expensive ones, the penthouse at the top, are $600,000. So we're staying in the cheap ones. As I said, we're only half a mile from probably the centre. This is one of the back streets of Perth. And in the background is just some of the high-rise buildings. That's a church we're looking at here, right next to the hospital, Royal Perth Hospital. And that's the Royal Perth Hospital. And then coming across is some of the high-rise buildings, which is the centre of Perth. I'm looking east at the moment, and I'm looking at the WACA ground. WACA means West Australian Cricket Association, and it's a sporting arena. And these huge lighting systems, they play cricket at night, and I can see that, well, I can't really get them close enough, but they're called fly swatters, because exactly what they look like from a distance. But from this angle it probably doesn't show that. Right next to where we're staying is a little cottage for sale. It was built in 1903 and it's been done up for sale at the moment. So from the outside it's very, very plain. There's nothing to it at all. It's probably worth a fortune in the location where we are here, and that's our little accommodation at the back. Up to the side of from the units that we're staying in, there's another huge complex. Well, huge on Perth standards anyway. Now these houses here are going back to the turn of the century, or going back to England, so it's like an English theme with terraced houses. Now all these buildings are within 100 yards of each other. This particular building is by Homes West, which is the West Australian government building homes for private people. And as you can see, they're not very creative in their building. Most homes are here are built of brick and tile, or brick and iron roof. This here is just virtually a pan, just to show you how we drive on the wrong side of the street. And down here there's a public park. It's about 7:30 in the evening. Real balmy night, but today's temperature probably would have been about 38. Well, here's American Hotel. It's the Sheraton Hotel. And that's one of the biggest hotels in Perth. And that would be on one of the main streets heading into the city itself. Used to be Australia's own car was a Holden. And the Holdens are produced by GMH Holden, which is General Motors Holden. And they're the most common car in Australia. This is one of the most modern ones. This is just the side view of it. Nothing really special, but just a nice Australian car. Right, over the road here is what they call a Holden Barina. But as far as I know, it's a Japanese car, just with the name Holden written on it. Probably Holden on the steering wheel, so they call it a Holden. The time is now 6:30 in the morning, and this is a pan taken from the unit that we're staying in. Now this is an idea of how many trees and foliage there is. This is within half a mile of the GPO, or General Post Office, the centre of Perth. Beautiful. Now this is a view on the inside of the unit. We have a 3-bedroom unit, and this is a combined kitchen, lounge and dining room. And I'm just standing at the porch window, or porch door. And who have we got here? This little girl is called Ted, for the simple reason that she loves teddy bears. And that's Troy sitting at the couch and at the bench. And here is Brad. Brad is just cooking our sausages for breakfast. Well, here we are on Albany Highway, just south of Perth. And we're here to stop here to pick up our new motorbike. It's a 4-wheel motorbike from this store here. And this is it. We're just going to load it onto the pickup, or the truck. Well, here it is, about 7 o'clock on a hot summer's afternoon, and everybody's just sitting down to have a bit of cold chicken. And we haven't met David as yet. We've met all the other kids here, or young people having their dinner. David.
He's the biggest kid.
And Linda.
Where's the opening?
The air conditioner was put in today with a bit of American ingenuity. We used plenty of duct tape, and it works. It's cooling the house down quite considerably. This little device here is a fan-forced electric oven, completely portable. So it works on electricity and heats the element. Then a fan comes through and forces the air and cooks the food. And it's very efficient and very economical. I don't know the full history of this table, but it's 9 foot long by 5 foot wide, which is, in normal terms, is a pretty big table, but it fits in this room for the kitchen, because the kitchen is huge itself, as you can see. And over here is the slow combustion stove. This stove runs on wood, obviously, or lumber, and it's very slow combustion, which means it burns very slowly. And in the back of it is what they call a wetback or a coil, and that's used to heat the water for the house. But unfortunately, even on a day like this, we don't light it. We'd rather have a cold shower. I've just put the sprinklers on. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll see if I can get them. These are Rosella Parrots. I've just come in because it's nice and cool. These are natural and indigenous for the area. And in the background you can hear the magpies warbling. Whenever the sprinklers go on, we seem to get a myriad of birds coming in. We have a special little bird here called a bluefin wren, or sorry, no, a blue wren. Sometimes he's around, and he's brilliant blue colour. The majority of the birds in this tree now, or this bush, are honeysuckers. And they come in for the cool and the wet, and also for the honey out of this particular plant, the nectar. This is the Rosellas, and maybe some 28 parrots too, and the pine tree just close to the house. The 28 are called the 28 because its whistle sounds like 28, 28. This is a long shot of a 28. I should get another one closer up later on. And another interesting thing while I've got the camera in this position is here is a lemon tree, which is common, but most houses in the metropolitan area have at least one lemon tree with the lemons falling off, but this one's no different, and this is 80 miles from Perth. It's been another hot day today, probably about 30 degrees Celsius, and West Australia normally has a beautiful sunset. Hopefully this one will come out. Kookaburra laughing in the background. As I was saying, it's been a pretty hot day again, very hot and muggy, and that's where I'll be sleeping. We're now up at the cattle yards. These cattle yards were built 35 years ago, and when they were constructed they were virtually the state of the art. The cattle yards at that time. Over the years they have deteriorated and now they're past their usable lifetime and they'll have to be pulled down. The strongest and best part about these yards was the steel gates. So they will still be serviceable, they'll be removed, and there's some people who are willing to take the cattle yards, take the lumber out of them, or the timber that they need, and they'll burn the rest. And in the background there is a weighing frame. This conglomeration of steel is the cattle crush, and I don't think it's been used for probably 10 years by the look of it. Every bit of it's been tied up with bits of barbed wire and rope. This is the same crush looking front on. As you can see, it's fairly rusted and out of date and virtually unserviceable, or it is useless. This strange piece of machinery is what they call a cattle crush, a calf crush. It looks like that hasn't been used probably in a good many years and probably just rusted sitting there. That's in the laying down position. It stands up and the calf is pushed into it and pulled over on the side and the calf is marked. Surprise, surprise, I've just put this in the vertical position and it looks it's quite serviceable. The dead trees here are in the cattle yards, and to me they're like a stark reminder of the day gone by, of these yards. These yards are nearly dead, and of course the trees are already dead. There's a stark beauty still, just in the death of this tree, just the shape of the tree and the branches against the beautiful blue sky. This now is one of the old hay sheds. There's some baled hay in there. This is the baling machine here. And the trailer that's used to feed the hay out on. This trailer has a little bit of history. It goes back to the 50s or 60s, and it was a 5-ton brewery wagon, and it was used to deliver beer in the metropolitan area of Perth. And now the front cab's gone and it's been converted into a trailer. Still carting things, but no more beer. This strange piece of equipment is called a mixall, and for that reason it's a hammer mill, and what you do, you can mix and it grinds oats, barley, wheat, and the combination puts it in the bin at the back, and hay, and then it's carted out and augered and fed to the cattle. The hay is here to the left, and then there's some more oats and some bins up here. Fresh drinking water is always a needed thing on a property like this, and this tank is probably one of about 5 or 6 on the property, and that is normally filled with guttering from the machinery sheds and the sheds, and going into the tanks during the winter and saved for the summertime. Here are 2 silos. They're full of oats, and those were put up probably 25 years ago, and they're still serviceable. In the next shed, hay shed, we have the round bales. These round bales are 7/10 of a ton each, so no way can a human being carry them. They're carried on the back of the tractor and fed to the hay, fed to the cattle. Next we have the sheep yards, which are close to the shearing shed. These are fairly old. They were probably replaced 25-30 years ago and seem to be in a reasonable condition still. Probably runs about 3,000 sheep. This eerie, old, quiet building are the holding yard or the holding pens, the sheep, and that's the shearing board up in front there. And this is where the sheep stay until they're shorn. So the woolies come in here and are shorn up in front. I'm standing where the sheep are shorn, and the sheep come through the gates in the end there, through these yards here. They're pulled out on this board by the shearers, and this is the shearing floor. This is a 4-stand plant. With an overhead shaft which runs the machinery. Bit of modern equipment here, it's electric motor. The wool is shorn by the shearers down the end there and thrown onto this table here, and it's classed and all the dirty wool removed from it, and after classing it's put into a bin, and then when those bins are reasonably full goes into the press. This is an electric press. This piece of equipment is a medieval torture machine. This is the machinery sheds. We have 2 tractors and the harvester. This is a storage area of old and useless and thrown away junk. And here, something from the past. A motorbike. Hasn't been used for a long time. This old Toyota diesel truck has gone past its serviceable use on the farm itself. It is now used just for firefighting. The plate indicates farm, which means it's licensed to be used for in the farming area of the property itself and for fighting fires, and that's all. In other words, its use is restricted to this farm. This is another collection area here of old and disused and out of date and rusted machinery. And even a bulldozer in the background. This old girl is a TD9 91 and it is an international. I'm told it still actually works. The tractor itself, or bulldozer, is the diesel, and it starts on gasoline or petrol for a start, and then it's kicked over to use the diesel. We are now inside the yard of an old derelict cottage that has seen better days. Now, just for contrast, this is the view from this old derelict area up the sheds. The green belt at the bottom of is the Hotham River. I'm standing on the top of the old bulldozer. And I spring round the other way or move around the other way. You get an idea of an old property. Here I've just stumbled across an old antique area. This is the graveyard for Land Rovers. It's like the elephant burial area. There's bits of Land Rovers all over the place here. I've counted probably 3, maybe 4 Land Rovers in different conditions of rust. This one here was a little short wheelbase Land Rover, and lying near the other small wheelbase Land Rover is a long wheelbase Land Rover, and jacked up on the frame of it is parts of another Land Rover. And so there's 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 Land Rovers there. And then just coming down again, there's one Land Rover stuck in a tree. Very undignified resting place for Land Rovers. The paddock that I'm on now is, for the obvious name, the bull paddock. This is where the bulls are fattening up, getting ready to be put in with the cows for mating. This one here looks like he's already pregnant. Obviously didn't like my comment. In the background there's a kookaburra. Just getting ready to go into town, do a little bit of shopping. And this poor old girl, this old Toyota's on its last legs unless it's repaired very soon. The radiator's had it, we're getting that replaced tomorrow. And I had a blowout in the right hand wheel about 3 or 4 days ago, and all the tyres on it are completely bald. So, well, this is it. This is a little 4-wheel motorbike. It's 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel, and when I was on the farm here we either used horses, Land Rovers or motorbikes, 2-wheel motorbikes. And this I don't find as good or as easy as the ordinary motorbike. It will be functional on the farm here for carting out feed and hay and for getting it through places where a motorbike wouldn't go in the winter time. So it does have its purpose. And I've just been checking fences the last day or so. I did 35k, which is about 20 something mile, and I've probably done about half the farm. I've got the other half to go yet. Yes, it does rain here. And this looks like a summer storm coming up. Here I am down at the Hotham River, on our property. This is one of the deep pools that are permanent during the summertime. The river itself stops flowing, and what we have is deep pools or strings of water holes. This particular one is pretty well fresh water. There's a freshwater stream coming into it, and from this pool we pump water up to the top tanks or up to the cottage right on the hill. This is the same location, and this old girl here is an old 4 horsepower diesel motor that runs a worm drive pump, and this was used to pump the water up to the cottage, which is over a long distance. That's it up here on the hill. And this pump would have been installed probably about 20 years ago. And the other method of pumping the water, which was used for a long time, which was very efficient, is the old windmill. The windmill's turned off at the moment, and turning off doesn't mean stopping the wheel. The fan at the back is turned, or the tail is turned, so it turns out of the wind as the wind gets strong. You can't physically turn a windmill off without doing damage to it. This rusty, slimy piece of equipment is the actual pump of the windmill. So the windmill turns, and there's a rod that goes up and down, and then you have a pump, and this is it, the pumping section of the windmill. And this windmill needs servicing. The buckets aren't working properly. Well, the year is 1998, and all that equipment is being replaced by this. This is an electric pump and a 2.5 kVA generator. Now the generator is moved from one site to another, and this pump will probably stay here, and it's doing more efficient job than what the windmill and the lighting and the old diesel engine. This unit here is moved from one site to another, and the pumps are on different dams scattered all over the property. West Australian climate being that it is, we only get about 6 months of wet weather and 6 months of dry. So farming in West Australia in the summertime is constant getting water for the stock and for the houses. So this is why it's most important that you have efficient systems. This in its time was an efficient system. This also was an efficient system in its day, but now it's antiquated, and now 1998, more efficient systems. Modern technology, I've just taken the generator away, and this is just the pump that stays here, and that'll be covered so it doesn't get damaged by stock or if it does rain. And then the generator is put on the back of the truck, and I'm just going to another dam now to pump some water from one dam into a concrete tank which supplies the house. So here I am at the next site. I'm standing on the bank of what they call a dam or earth tank, and it's just a hole dug out in the clay, and the water runs down this gully and fills it during the winter time. And I've just moved the generator, and there's just a tiny little pump, probably about $100 to $150 worth, and that stays on site. So that's pumping from the dam and then into a 10,000 gallon tank, and then from there it's just gravity fed down to the house. Well, that's how simple it is, this whole process. Probably took me 5 minutes. Shift everything up here, pumping water into the tank, and then you'll have water for the house. This water's used for the gardening, it's not for drinking. Simple. I've just loaded up a load of loose hay out of the hay shed and cleaned that up. I'm taking this film now because when I take it out in the paddock the cattle will storm after me, and I'm going to take this out to the back paddock and feed it to the cows out there. This is a freak encounter. I've just come across a mob of emus. And that's a little chick trying to get through the fence. Now this mother could attack me because I'm between her and her chick, but hopefully she doesn't. So she got 1, 2, 3, 4, about probably 5 chicks. Of all the time I was on the farm here for 10 years, I saw one mob of chicks and an emu. And today we've got another 4 chicks there and 1 chick behind me who's still cheeping. This mother's quite worried at the moment. She's got the 4 chicks down there and the other chick is behind me. So she's not running, she's not scared of me, and she may even come back this way to try and collect her chick again. This is a paddock I'm going to feed the cattle in. This is a back boundary paddock. It's beautiful soil here. A particular tree in the distance is a red gum. I'll show some later on. And there's the cows just standing looking at me. There's an unusual other tree here. It seems to only grow in this area. It's called a blackbutt. And this is them here. Not the power poles, the ones behind them. These cows are a little bit slow on the uptake. They're not quite too sure what I've got on board. The ones behind me definitely know what I've got. These cows have got their calves still on them. The calves will be coming off very soon and going to market. You'll be going, and that one. I'm now at ground level with the cows themselves. They couldn't care less about me, they were more interested in eating the hay. Seems strange, these cows are sitting or standing on the hill, still not coming in. One of 2 reasons. 1, they're probably not used to hay this time of the year, and 2, there's so much feed in the paddock, they're not interested in it. We've just picked up a dozen Suffolk rams. Suffolks have got black faces and black legs, and I'm going to put a harness on 4 of them and take them out to the paddock with the ewes now. So that means we're going to take the 8 off and leave them here. These sheep are quite cute looking with their black faces and their black legs. All the straps on these rams are the rattles, and the rattle is on their chest, and so when at mating time, or when they're going in now, they'll mark each ewe that they jump, so we know that 1, how many they've served, and 2, if they're working properly. You can put different coloured rattles on them so you know which ram is working and which one isn't. This may not come out. This is a wedge-tailed eagle. Two of them actually. Dave's bringing the sheep down towards the rams. We just rattled the rams and they're on their way out. This is quite a big mob of sheep. We're about 1,000 head. This is a bit of a social class distinction here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. The rams don't want to have anything to do with the ewes, and the ewes have only got a passing interest in the rams. So there's something to do with the English sheep and the Australian sheep not coming together. But maybe tonight might be a different story. That's a view of our property from Hedges Gold Mine. And today we're at the gold mine itself. I'm standing on the wall of the dam, which is the sluice dam. All the tailings from the gold mine are put into this dam and then allowed to sink, and then the water is reused back in the mine again. So this is a lake or a dam, and right in the distance will be the actual mine, or not the mine, where they take the ore out of it, take the gold out of the ore. That's a truck unloading now, the ore, and that's the gold crushing plant just in the distance there. So this is being in reverse. We're going to have a look through the actual crushing plant, the ball plant, and then where they dump the ore, and then have a look at the mine itself. So everything's in reverse, but you probably get an idea of the gold mine itself. And this is a huge lake, and unfortunately it's got cyanide and other yucky chemicals in it. This is one of the big plastic pipes that come around from the gold mine itself, or the crushing plant, and where that sluices the tailings back into the lake itself. And as I said, they sink, and the water comes to surface again, and the water is pumped back and used again in the mine, or for the process. Our host, Arthur Thompson, who's very generously allowed us to come in the mine. You got anything to talk to me?
Come over and see us one day. The gold mine's up over there. There's gold in them hills over there, isn't there?
There sure is. Not as much as there is here. This is the dumping area again from a different angle. And Arthur's just told us some interesting facts about the trucks. The trucks are about 100 tonne each, and after processing, the amount of gold taken out of 100 tonnes of ore is about a teaspoon. So it's a pretty fine amount, pretty small amount. This is the tailings coming out from the crushing plant. That's a mixture of mud and water, and it's just part of one of the many pipes that's going into this huge big dam. They load up the top there, which loads the ore into these huge big buckets, or into this hopper, and then there's a conveyor belt which conveys it up to another hopper. Then another conveyor belt takes it into the gold crushing plant here in the background.
So what I'm doing is basically logging the drill core. The drills out in the pit give us long cylinders of rock like this, as they basically drill a hole up to 300 or 400 meters deep, and it arrives here. And the first thing we have to do is what's called an orientation marker, so we know which is top and which is bottom of the hole, because if you're looking down the hole that way, that would mean the top, which is important to know. And then we send it to the core saw, it gets chopped in half, work out how much ore there is. And then someone like me, a geologist, comes along and we look at the rock and we identify what the rock is. We start taking measurements that are important to us so that you can predict in the pit where there's ore and where there's waste and everything else. And that's basically all I do. I look at the rock that the drillers have provided and I say what's under the ground.
What Brad has in his hand is being quartered, and that, you may not see it, there's a little shiny bit in it, and it's actually, there you go, you can probably see that, that is real gold. So obviously that's a high concentration of gold on that little piece. The ore that they're mining now is laterite, and that's going through the mill at 700 tonne per hour, which is running out this November. And then from then on, they'll be going into the igneous rock, which is the core samples here, and it will slow the mine down, or the milling part down to 150 tonne an hour, which is a big drop. So the amount of gold in this particular ore body has to be high to warrant 700 tonnes an hour down to only 150 tonne an hour. And this also clogs the machinery up. Each tray here cost about $700 to get it to this stage here as part of the actual drilling process.
Racks and racks.
And then there's racks and racks and racks of them
I think
here.
there's 18,000 metres going to be drilled over the next 2 years. So we're working at $100 a metre. A lot of money.
This is just more racks and racks and racks of the ore samples that are all stored, and probably even where these came from are mined and gone by now. Core sample is dolerite, and it was well below the other gold-bearing rock, virtually base rock, and there's no gold in it, and it's as tough as anything, and it clogs the mine up completely. So this is useless rock from the gold mining point of view. Okay, this particular piece of rock, that Brad's having even trouble lifting, is a piece of what I said before is the dolerite, which is, from the miner's point of view, is useless. They can't use it, and it just clogs all the machinery up. It's so heavy and so tough. These things here look like huge big ball bearings, but they're actually steel, and these are what crush the ore. These go round and round like in a big mixall or a concrete mixer or a washing machine, and crush the ore. These are about $1,000 a tonne, and they probably use about 5 tonne a day. And they do wear down, and they just get pushed out the back of the mill. I'm just going around to get a photo of them now. But that's what does the crushing. There's the back end of the mill, there's a big washing machine, and all that clunking in those pebbles there are the remains of the balls that I took the photo of from the other side. They just get worn away to nothing. Big cement mixer there. The others are going up the middle of the mill. Big washing machine. And I'll be going out there in just a minute. There's our guide. Oh, just about as close as you want to get to this machine. It's going normal. So there's the big backhoe, whatever you like to call it, the loader, loading it in, and this is the ramp that the ore comes into the actual mine itself. Coming in at 700 tonnes an hour with liquid water, 700 tonne of water, goes into the big mixer. And once mixed, it goes up over my head to what they call the cyclone, spinning the mixer cyclone set in two directions. If it's too coarse, it goes back into the machinery and done. If it's fine enough to come through these tubes, the rubbish is taken off and the finely mixed material is taken away, and then this acid and things are added to it. And just to talk a little after again, this whole equipment here is run by two of them. This bubbling mass of liquid and mud is one of the sluice tanks. Where I'm standing, there's probably 10 to a dozen here. It's where the chemicals are mixed into the bit with the mud and water. What I've got here now is strange enough burnt coconut or carbon, and the gold actually sticks to that, and the gold is removed in that particular process. You can see more of these doing these 100-ton ore carrying trucks. Each of these tanks flows from one to the other. As you said before, the cyanide is put in the top tank, and they're filtered and reticulated all the way down, removing the gold in each process into the bottom tank for about a dozen, and there's virtually no gold at all. The bag here is after given its size.
My boss might be around here somewhere, so if you guys can just put them in your pocket.
Yeah, so that's gold. There's in this carbon, there is gold. A very, very small trace of it, obviously. The tank here is what they call the gold water, a mixture of gold and water and other chemicals. And from there, it goes into the processing and the actual gold is taken out. In this building, even after it's not allowed into here, this is the gold room. That's where the pure gold is taken off. It's about as close as we can get. The lines at the centre, this is where everything is controlled by, just by computers. And just with two men controlling the whole process. This here is one of the haul packs. They'll be coming into getting repaired. This one's a 100-tonner. Carries 100 tonne. Another one here getting repaired, or is a front-end loader. Which is a pretty big machine also. This here is the haul road. Don't dare stop. There could be big haul packs coming in either direction, and of course we give way to them.
We sure do.
Here comes a water truck to water down the road to keep the dust down. There is the mine ahead of us. There's a haul pack. Obviously we're keeping out of his way.
And that's the second best gold mine in the Southern. That was the best.
This is Hedges Mine. It's completely open cut, and there's a little bit of reforestation that I'm coming around to now, and behind me. But on the top of this hill here is an imaginary line between Hedges Mine, the one we're at here now, and the Boddington gold mine. And from November, the laterite here is going to run out, and they'll have to start digging virtually close into the Boddington gold mine area, which is just over that hill. And here comes one of the haul packs out of the mine itself. They're coming at the rate of probably one every 5, maybe 10 minutes. He's having a bit of a grunt coming up that hill. He's got a 100-ton load on him. This rock here is a dolerite fault line or fault of material, which Arthur's just telling me that it runs straight through the middle of the mine, and the dolerite is a type of soil or type of rock they definitely can't handle. It's got no gold and it's tough as old boots. Well, this here is the reforestation that they've done, putting the land back to where it was, and if not better.
Oh, not long. That's probably 3 years maybe. That's what they intend doing.
Here, it's got a lot of copper in it, and when mine or through the mill, I have to use a lot more cyanide because of the copper and the cyanide seem to collect together or work against each other.
Wants to go like that.
This area here was originally benched, stepped down, and during the winter time or during a wet weather season it just slid and it's just formed its natural level. No terraces, no nothing. This truck has just been loaded. There's the big loader, and that picks up about 20 up to 30 tonne per scoopful, and these are 100-tonne trucks. And here's the empty truck just coming in, go back round and will be loaded up too.
That ore in there is about 1.47 gram.
Which is about a teaspoonful,
Yeah.
not level,
Not heap.
not heat.
Level. He's run.
He's grunting getting up the hill, down in crawler gear. And so I keep saying fella, a lot of the drivers here are ladies. Now if it tells me they do a better job than what the men do, more conscientious and better workers. Troy standing in front of one of the tyres, which is pretty big. Then Troy, if you'd like to walk over, and here is the big fellas. That's off one of the haul packs. Well, today is cattle yard building day. Now this area here, the paddock, should be by this afternoon a cattle yard. And the cattle yards are completely mobile, they're just coming down the road now. And hopefully, at the end of the day, this will be where they go. So here comes the big trailer, the 5-tonne trailer, dragged by the tractor. That's got most of the yard frame plus the gates. And then behind that is a Toyota Land Cruiser, and that has got the loading weight and some more frame on the head bale. Now to work. Well, here we are, 2 hours later, completely erected. Cattle yards to hold 100 head of cattle. This whole process to put up these yards to hold 100 head of cattle took 3 men, 2 hours. And that's from way to go, from starting loading them at the shed to bring them down here, choosing a site and erecting them. This here is the loading ramp or loading race, or the loading, it is a loading ramp. And behind that is the crush, and in the crush itself there's a weighing table. They call the head bale again, the crush, then the blue frame on the ground is the weighing frame. So the beasts are put in this crush here and then weighed, near tagged, whatever has to be done. So here we have the workers. This is Chris. Hard at it. Wearing, you got Rossi boots on?
Yeah, got me Rossi.
All right. And here's Rodney, the other worker.
Hard at it, yeah.
And what have you got? You got Rossi's too?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, look.
You have to hold your feet still. Right, got them. It goes without saying, Rossi boots.
Go back a bit. Keep going back a bit.
Doing a bit of fencing here at the moment, and we're using green red gum. We're just putting a stone post in the ground. This here is the strainer post. This is about 7 foot 6 long. This is green jarrah, and the bark will be taken off and then used as a strainer post. From this angle here you can see the beautiful red colour of the jarrah timber, and it is tough. It's one of the toughest timbers that I know of. Behind the workers here is a jarrah tree, just a small one. It's actually one of these trees that we cut to use for a strainer. And this one here is a wandu or white gum. just as hard, just as tough. So tough and hard that when cut and thrown in the water it sinks. This is a tractor mounted post hole digger, and this ground is pretty tough, very dry this time of the year. And we're putting in some posts, and they're split Jarrah posts. I'm standing in the holding yard of the cattle yards, and I just picked up a crop circle, as Sully would say, out of the paddock, and it's to coax the cattle in. So this fence round here will be the holding yard. The cattle followed me up part of the way, but seeing the yards, they're probably a bit skittish and a bit shy at the moment. They don't really want to come in. So this holding yard will hold probably 300 to 400 head of cattle, which is ample for what we want. And there's the cattle yards in the distance. Chris is just finishing off the weighing frame. This is the modern way of baling hay. Machine comes out and everything's done by machinery. This weighs about 7/10 of a tonne and can be handled by one man. Life's a lot easier. We needed to find some gates for making a wing on the yard, and this one was bent, and so Chris and I thought of a good straightening device. Quite simple actually. It's not man involved or anything, it's just straight machinery. And the final result a gate that is as straight as the day it was made or bought. And very cheap machinery to straighten it with. Modern science. It's later on in the day now, and we finally coaxed the cows to come in and have a little bit of a feed. And this is quite a big mob in here now. What I also did is I coaxed one little steer into the yard, and he's going to be our so-called guinea pig. This sturdy little steer is going to be the first one through the yards, and we're going to put him over the weighing table and get his weight too. And Chris is just finishing off just the final touches on the weighing frame. That's the weighing frame here. And the controls are up the top here. Okay, we've got the little fella in the crush. He's running all the way in. He's a skittish little fella. And Chris will just come up behind him and bail him in there. Tails are being 0. And just wait till he stands steady and we can get his weight. What was he?
295.
295 in the clear. Okay, that was quite a flighty little steer we had in there. Well, this is our first day of using the new cattle yards. Now the cattle in this particular yard, you can see have got the ear tags on, they've been weighed, and they've all been sorted out. This yard here is the next mob to go through. And then back is one of the holding yards. And there's all the equipment, the crush and the scales. Behind me is another holding yard, so we can hold 2 mobs in here at once. Chris and Rod are just doing the final touches to another holding yard, which will double our capacity. Hold more.
Well, a third and two-thirds, because when this one comes back, sometimes you don't have to drag as far out. Sometimes when you've got a split door, you do fall off the board. No, I am going to fill one mistake I made when I didn't do the whole lot. I should have filled those all the way right round. So I didn't do that. And my shit now.
This is what I was telling you about the...
Counselling back. This is, if you're shearing a hell of a lot of sheep in August, probably not quite enough storage. But we can get half a day in, I think, for us. Half a day.
What's this here?
We got that there, which is shed
What's
deck.
the length of your wool room?
The actual length is 30 foot, 30 by 30. Ideal size for just the wool room, not quite enough bale space. But when you get out here and you get 10 or 12 bales, you get too comfortable.
So we've got that shed next door.
That's right, yeah.
So if we were to, with the tractor, just park it there.
Park it there.
Because you need it for the press.
Yeah.
Right. Put them on the hay rakes on the front, lift it and kick it
Roll
off.
on. Yeah, no trouble. That'd be probably ideal to do that. Not
And
compulsory
here's
yet,
the chute.
but it's starting to become compulsory.
Oh yeah.
Just those. Those doors are probably the right height. If you want to go big, high, you put it properly. Get away with about that shit. Too, I could be there around
Well, here it is, 6:30 in the morning. I'm just going off to Perth about 9 o'clock. So the pickup or the truck gets a good wash. And I've just cut the lawn for the first time we've been here. And it's taken a month to go to this stage. So it's rather slow growing, but it looks good after it's been cut. And here I am up in the swimming pool area. And I just cut the lawn around here too. And that's the same story. It took a long time to grow, and it looks good after it's been cut. This is the front area that David's been in charge of to put a bit of water on, and it's just starting to actually green up and starting to look quite good. So with more water on, it'll even probably have to be mowed. I've been trying to capture this little fella for a while. I can't even see him through the viewfinder. It's a little robin redbreast. And he's been coming in every couple of days. I thought, oh, I'll capture him one day, and I think I've got him this morning. A little shaw. Gotcha. He's the only one who comes in. All the other ones are either female blue wrens or female robin. So he's the only male that I've seen in this particular flock. This one here is just the common honey eater, and as I said previously, he's getting the nectar out of the red flowers on this particular tree. They don't seem to come out in the open very often. Here's one out in the open. He's gone again. There he is. There's a kangaroo. I'm just going to go and follow him just to make him jump so you can see him a bit more. Here he is. I'll see if I can get a better shot of him. Here he goes. Oops, there you are, over the fence. Well, here I am up in Perth. It's actually Fremantle, nearly Fremantle, and this is a view from my sister's house looking towards the Swan River down on here. But just over this rocky ridge, probably another 2 miles in that direction, is the ocean. It's where the river never actually got to the ocean, but had to go another 2 miles or so. And this building here is what they call the soap factory. And just to the left of that, you can just see a building, is where my other brother Ian lives. And now this is the Swan River. And there's some marinas here. There's a marina up the road here, or down the river. And then another marina just down here. And the river does quite a few turns here and then straightens out. So it turns around here and then comes up towards the city of Perth. So Perth would probably be in about probably close to 10 miles in this direction here. This area here is called HMAS Lewin, Her Majesty's Australian ship. It's not actually a ship, it's a training facility and naval base for Fremantle. So it's called HMAS Lewin, but it's actually just a training base. Quite a nice spot to be training right on the river here. And that view there is looking towards Fremantle, which is the base, and there's Fremantle is down through here too. It's early in the morning and I'm north of Perth, a suburb area called Sorrento, which is just on the ocean. And there's the Indian Ocean. Now in the background, you may not even be able to see it, is the island called Rottnest Island, which is the tourist island. About 12 miles up the coast. Perth is quite hot and wet in the winter time, but dry in summertime. So bougainvillea grows beautifully here, and this is a good example of a bougainvillea. I'm on the 7th floor of Mount Newman House, which is one of the buildings in Perth, looking down on what they call the cloisters, an old building below me. And just in there, that's St George's Terrace, which is the main street of Perth. And I'm not sure the name of this street, but if you look down or follow that down through the buildings, there's the Swan River. The emblem on this building is the state emblem. 2 kangaroos and the crown and the black swan, or the swan there. So it's a state emblem for Western Australia. And that's in St George's Terrace. It's about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The noise you can hear in the background is the sea breeze, which comes in virtually every day. This bit of filming is taken opposite where I took the film yesterday of the river, from actually my brother's side of the house, and in the background will be the area where I filmed it before. Now the river had to take a wide bend here, the Swan River, for the simple reason that I'm standing on a limestone outcrop. Otherwise the river would have gone straight in the ocean, which is, I think, probably only about half a mile behind me. That's a new development going on there, and maybe in the background you can't see any, but Perth is in the background, probably 7 or 8 miles down. This is just some of the housing. It's just on dusk. There's a catamaran just cruising up the river, and just in the distance there is a dragon boat practicing for the competition. I'm standing on Ian's veranda, and here at the moment is the Indian Ocean, and then if I come round past the buildings, there's the river. So it's not a great distance between the river and the ocean, just in this particular spot. And also from the view from this veranda here, you can look right down into Fremantle itself. In the southerly direction, that's some of the rigging and the gear for Fremantle itself, the port. So from Ian's veranda, you get the ocean, the river and Fremantle. I'm just capturing the sunset. Ships engage roads just out of Fremantle. The sun just sinking in the west.